Welcome boys and girls, Costin here with a discussion about Grand Cathay in patch 8.0 as well as the Tiger Warriors DLC. To give my overall perspective, having played a decent amount with both the new campaign with Bhashiva as well as with Xiaoming over here in a regular Cathayan campaign, and what kind of impact the changes that Creative Assembly has implemented in the game have on the overall playstyle of Cathay. What are those changes, and also how does Bhashiva handle in terms of AI? Well, she's actually winning against Grimgor in this campaign, and I think she's actually quite good in terms of AI behavior. Tiger Warriors are honestly kind of scary to deal with in an early game, especially as greenskins. Maybe Grimgor is the one that ended up suffering the most out of this DLC. And while she does have limitations, I don't know if the AI really cares about those limitations, or the resource system that the AI has, or the resource system in general, is not so much of a limitation as one might have thought. But first off, let's talk about the big changes to Cathay. It is not a full rework, and I think they should have gotten a full rework, but it seems that the philosophy that Creative Assembly has gone with regards to content in general in Warhammer 3 ever since Omens of Destruction is to implement gradual changes, not big sweeping overhauls that completely redefine everything. And that can work if a race is really fun to play already, but the problem is Cathay was not really fun to play to begin with. Like, you have a relatively safe position in all campaigns, so Xiaoming, Yanbo, Miaoying, and you have more annoyances than actual challenges. And on top of that, you just kind of make do with Jade Warriors and Jade Warrior Crossbowmen because they're fairly easy to recruit. Yanbo actually has the hardest time acquiring them, but then again, he doesn't necessarily have a lot of problems in his campaigns, except maybe Mazdamundi has much of a problem that is. And this creates the problem that Cathay has a lot of cool shit, right? So you think of Fire Rain Rockets, you think of Sky Junks, you think of Terracotta Sentinels, hell, you think about Celestial Lions even. They're pretty fun units to have, but most of the time, given the campaign pacing, you're not going to use them. And that's partly due to the design of Cathay, but we'll talk about why that ends up occurring in just a second. What they have changed, the big substantial changes. So they've added new units, the Tiger Warriors themselves, in a campaign. So you have 3 new units. You have the Tiger Warriors, pretty good early game infantry, which you can recruit at tier 2. Expensive, undeniably so. So if we look in terms of the recruitment costs, they do cost a pretty penny to recruit, but honestly, they're kind of worth it in many ways, in some ways not necessarily so. I'm not sold on the idea of Stalkers, for instance, which are a tier 3 unit, but regular Tiger Warriors do at least add some early game variety. Iron Claw, kind of mixed feelings on that, because by the time you realistically get them, your campaign is long since over. They do give you a new building, they do give you a casualty replenishment hero, which is very significant if you're looking to play a longer campaign as Grand Cathay. Because one of the problems that Cathay has had and still has is with regards to the casualty, with regards to climate, which in turn affects casualty replenishment. Because unpleasant climate does affect that. Also, you gotta consider the distances between settlements. Cathay is a pretty big area of the campaign map, and you'll actually end up spending quite a few turns just moving around here, and perhaps a way that you would not encounter in many other campaign areas. It's actually one of the few areas of the campaign map where maybe a couple more settlements would be good. It's also annoying that Cathay doesn't have mountain climate, especially because some critical settlements do have mountain climate. Like you look at Singpo, you look at Wengcheng. It's just a bit bizarre, especially if you consider the geography of actual China, in terms of mountainous terrain. Well, China's pretty big anyway. They have all kinds of geography right there. So we get that new building, we get Tiger Warriors, we get a legendary hero, Toyan. the Merciless. And she's fairly easy to acquire. And that's kind of a big point, because there's some legendary heroes that are really good, but due to the fact that you're going to spend a good amount of time in your campaign having to unlock them, they're kind of you're only really going to get them at the point where they're not relevant. Whereas Toyan is relevant. She gives you melee attack for Jade Warriors, she gives you range for Jade Warriors, she's a pretty strong melee combatant. Her special skill line is not necessarily going to change things all that much, because by the time you get it, right, you know, getting physical resistance, leadership, and melee defense for all Jade Warrior units, pretty handy, so is reducing enemy leadership, but mostly you're going to benefit from using her in the early game, or, you know, as soon as you unlock her, or early to mid-game. It's kind of interesting, Creative Assembly considers the short campaign victory condition something that people would do in 50 turns, which is... I mean, kind of, sure, but depending on how you play a campaign, you can do it much faster. Here, I was not trying to be optimal. I was actually trying to play a campaign so I could unlock all heroes as quickly as possible. But yeah. So you get Toyan, you get Tiger Warriors, and you also get skill line changes for existing Cathayan heroes. Not a complete overhaul as a whole, but you do get new skills. For instance, you know, Astromancers get Astromantic Warding, that gives physical resistance to Jade Lions, Jet Lions, Terracotta Sentinels. Some things pretty damn good, you know, Heavenly Bonds. Paralyzed Astromancy, not so much. But yeah, you do get those new skill lines. I've done a whole video covering that, but Alchemists get a pretty big benefit. Though, I'm not sure if you would actually use extra armor or extra weapon strength when you have to decide what you're going to get between them. Some things, though, are really nice, like magical attacks in the entire army, melee attack for a single unit, put that on a dragon or whatever, you know, on Bhashiva. She's going to be pretty crazy. But yeah, you do get new skill lines. People have talked quite a bit about the Game Master. I don't necessarily think, like, 10 melee defense, sure, is great, but keep in mind you need to get them to rank 10 by the time you actually get there. Hell, by the time you recruit Game Masters. Again, you're going to have complete a lot of the campaign. So they've buffed Cathay's long-term potential, but Cathay's problem has never been the long-term potential in a campaign. It's always been the variety and interesting, or lack of interesting early game that's always hurt them from my perspective on that subject. Okay, so heroes got new skills. Legendary Lords did not get any changes from what I can see. So Miao Ying, Yanbo, Xiao Ming, they haven't gotten changes, which I think they should have gotten, you know, some unique faction effects. We probably should have gotten a proper rework and honestly terrain changes. People keep talking about expanding the map. I personally would just like the existing map to be improved. They actually did something very substantial in regards to Kasdorfs, in that they improved the Darklands by quite a bit as a campaign area. And I don't think CA should be afraid of doing those kind of changes. Like, the map is not necessarily, you know, shouldn't necessarily be set in stone. That's my perspective. And, you know, you look at Pharaoh Dynasties, one of the best things about that was the expansion of the map, which made that campaign substantially better compared to where it was before. Sure, they didn't change existing areas, but just expanding the map. In the case of Warhammer 3, I think it's less of expanding the map and just improving already existing areas. Maybe End Times will do that. Okay. Beyond skill line changes, new units, what else have they changed? Well, they've changed commandments in a very minor way. So, for instance, Jade Dragon Edict gets a growth benefit. Iron Dragon Edict gets you construction cost benefit. Relatively minor stuff over there, but this is in combination with a complete overhaul of the entire technology tree. Cathay's technology tree beforehand used to be pretty damn worthless. The only real benefits you would get in the technology tree beforehand is you would buff up your Jade Warriors and Jade Warrior Crossbowmen, which are already pretty strong units. And what was the kind of benefit you would get for it? You would get an upkeep benefit, sure, but it was more of a thing about getting research because everything else was not worth it. Now, however, you have the military tree, so you do still have a bunch of the military benefits. I believe they've removed the upkeep benefits. I think it was 10% for yin units, 10% for yang units. They've removed that. They give you a upkeep benefit of 5% for dragon scales. Though you do get some other benefits, Kumlan, Anvil, all that kind of stuff. The important thing is they've given you a province's technology tree, which is basically like your settlements. And this is where things end up being quite a bit different compared to where they were before. So first off, you can improve commandments. On the right side, you have yin and yang on different sides. So yang on the left side, yin on the right side. And you can improve certain commandments on each side. So for instance, you got Draconic Mandate on the left side with yang. And you can improve additional research rate and one extra local recruitment capacity. Yeah, the balancing here is not necessarily going to fit the yang benefit in terms of provinces. I mean, there's obviously some benefits, undeniably so, but compared to yin, it's not even a question. And that's just because of the kind of things you get on the yin side of the tree. So you do have a research in the middle, which reduces the wishing compass cooldown. But when you look at the yin tree, you see diplomatic relations with Cathay. You already have a lot of ways of improving diplomatic relations with Cathay, but improving it even further helps you with Confederation. Since Cathay only has regular Confederation, and it can actually be a pain to get Confederation with major factions, not minor ones, major ones, then having that extra bit of diplomatic relations can help out in a campaign. But the important thing is you get administrative subsidies, which reduces construction time of provincial capitals by 1 turn. There's all kinds of construction time benefits like defense buildings, military buildings, infrastructure buildings, but the most important one is administrative subsidies, because improving the construction time of provincial capitals means everything gets built faster. And here's a kicker. If you go with yin, when at the first tier of yin 1 and 2 you don't get it, but at 3 and 5 you get a construction time of -1 turn for all buildings. So you can reduce construction time for provincial capitals or all buildings, dependent on the research you get, by 2 turns if you go with yin, and not necessarily too far in. Besides, yin gives you a construction cost benefit, a growth benefit, all that. So the research tree is an improvement, but it doesn't fundamentally change the way you play a campaign. The yin and yang system is my personal issue in a campaign with Cathay. It's always been a system that I haven't ever really liked. I didn't like it before they changed it in Shadows of Change. They've kept it on a province-wide level with 8.0, and I don't know, I just think that this is where they could have done a lot more. If you want a comparison, let me give you a comparison. You have Kislev. And with Kislev, you have the Ice Court and the Grey Orthodoxy, and when you're playing any Kislev campaign, sure, Kastalton has a benefit with the Orthodoxy, Katrin with the Ice Court, Boris and Astankia. Well, I guess Boris is wiped out. Astankia is still kicking around just a bit, but Marafi's wiping her out. But both of them... But the idea of that system is to actually seek balance, and I think it's a heck of a lot better system than what Cathay has. And if they want to keep the harmony system, there's much, much better ways of improving that. Like, you could get some benefits with yin. Like, it used to work on a faction-wide level, but it was frustrating because it was very easy to get balance. Balance gave you a lot of benefits. It was more frustrating to maintain that balance than anything else. Not difficult, just frustrating. Now it's just kind of irrelevant. You rarely go for yang unless, you capture a province. And it's that frustration when you're capturing territory and things are out of balance. But in territory that you just captured, you're almost always incentivized, assuming I have a settlement, to go for balanced harmony, because it gives you a lot of campaign movement range upkeep for armies and provinces and income from all buildings. In fact, if you're not particularly interested in growing your settlements very quickly, you're almost always incentivized to go for either balanced harmony for the income benefit, or you're incentivized to go in just to reduce the construction cost and give you that growth benefit. Cathay's economy is an area where I would have liked to see some changes, right? Because they generate less money than many other factions, but they make up for it with a huge amount of ridiculous upkeep benefits that they can get in their armies. Like, you know, Jade Warriors at 86 upkeep for a unit that has this level of armor. Sure, Jiao Ming buffs them. It's kind of just ridiculous. They haven't changed the caravan system from what I've seen, though they have added research to increase number of active caravans +2. So you have one with widened roads, you have one with roads of harmony and honor. Jiao Ming, of course, gets one, though it's not a faction effect. It's a lord effect, so you can get it for Confederation. Bhashiva also gets an extra caravan through her own skill line. But the compass hasn't changed. The bastion hasn't changed. I would have liked to have... Like, the way you're going to use the compass is essentially you're going to keep that casualty replenishment 10% until you get casualty replenishment heroes who class speakers, and then you're just going to basically put it all in Celestial Lake for that 15% income. Yeah, the compass is pretty worthless. Even for Yan Bo, the only difference for Yan Bo is that he basically does the same thing until he gets Nangchang Basin, and then he just goes for Nangchang Basin full on. So the entire system should have been overhauled. Caravans, you know, still give you rewards, still give you money, but it's still that hassle, you know, ambushing, you know, fighting every minor ogre faction ambushes with 3-4 units, or sometimes you get the bigger army, and that's kind of annoying. You don't even have consistency with that. Castor of Caravans should have been the model they used, because those are actually cool. Like Castor of Caravans don't just give you money, but importantly, the events they get are much, much more interesting than the Cathayan ones. So yeah, Caravans and the compass haven't been changed, and it's actually good that Bhashiva doesn't have to worry about the freaking compass. She doesn't need it. It's kind of a worthless system. But let's talk about her specific campaign. With respect to her campaign, she does have unique systems to deal with, and she actually has the best climate of all Cathayan campaigns, because she gets Wasteland, she gets Mountain, she gets Temperate, Savannah, Desert, and Jungle. I mean, she does have unpleasant climates, but to be very, very blunt about it, this is the most freedom that you get in a Cathayan campaign, bar none. She does have severe limitations on unit recruitment, because if we look at her settlements, she, for instance, cannot recruit fire rain rockets. She can't recruit a whole bunch of different units in point of fact, though she can still acquire them using the armies of Shangyang system with Jiao Ming's goals, which would give you certain rewards. Though these goals, these objectives, do feel fairly lackluster in terms of a lot of rewards they do offer. Yeah, you can get some good units, but in terms of everything else, they just... Like, getting 122 Iron Favor or 141 is kind of ridiculous. I guess they wanted to avoid the situation like with Maneater, where just swimming in meat and money. But they've created a situation where a lot of these goals are just not worth it, but you still kind of want to do them for, I suppose, like the objectives. Or at least you need to do one of these missions to get to tier 2, then you get different objectives to unlock things. So she's got limitations on recruitment, and she also has unit caps for the Cathayan units she can recruit. She can recruit unlimited Tiger Warriors, but everything else requires unit caps. So that's handled with Iron Will system, and, well, it's turn 16 of this campaign, and you can see that I've gotten quite a bit of Iron Favor. Sorry, Iron Will. Iron Favor. Then the reason that's happening is because you can get quite a bit of it through caravans, and you can and you have beyond the ones you get in battle. So it's a limitation, but unlike Dread or the research limitation of army capacity for Tomb Kings or the Hellfort system for Cast Dwarves, this feels substantially better because while you do start limited in terms of everything, like the amount of armies you can have, the amount of units you can have, you do have a pretty strong core of units. Like Tiger Warriors are fairly strong early game units. And a lot of the other things, you can definitely improve unit capacity relatively quickly in a campaign. You do also acquire insignias, which give you all kinds of different benefits, though you can only have one insignia per unit. I think if you lose the unit, you lose the insignia. I couldn't tell you because I haven't lost a unit with an insignia so far. Cathayan units, especially because you can't give insignias to Tiger Warriors, which are actually the units that would be more vulnerable to losing them. But instead you give them to units that are already fairly durable enough. Because, yeah, Cathayan units, strong leadership, strong armor, so that is... It's rare that's going to happen unless you obviously lose your entire army. You can only recruit peasants from regular settlements, but you do get the benefit of getting Jade Warrior Crossbow at tier 2, tier 1, Jade Warrior Halberds at tier 2. Not sure why you'd get the Peasant Archer building, but there is that. But yeah, it's just kind of an awkward situation with some of the buildings. And what's also pretty awkward in Bhashiva's campaign is that, yes, she does have mountain climate, but she doesn't have a good way of navigating the mountains, because she doesn't have the underway stance. She can get other benefits, however, in her campaign. And I think her campaign is actually the most interesting Cathayan campaign so far, because you actually have a threat, even if that threat is good old, predictable Grimgore. I mean, anyone surprised that Grimgore is a problem? Not me, really. And so you do have to worry about that specific situation in your campaign when you're playing Bhashiva, dealing with Grimgore, because he's going to throw a lot of armies at you, and they're not going to be general, like, all right, here, you know, I defeated his main army, but now he's just recruited a bunch of Orc Biguns, and he's probably going to come back as well. So, yeah, that's definitely a problem to tackle. Also, her economy is actually worse than the other Cathayan campaigns, somewhat. I mean, she does have an economic building, but you're probably going to want to invest a lot of things in growth, because without that growth, you're just going to fall behind, or you're just going to end up fighting Grimgore with purely Tiger Warriors, and you actually do need other units to unlock the higher level of armies of Shangyang. You also have the system of the Tiger Court, where you acquire various relics on the campaign map. They're usually in certain settlements, but you can also acquire them from certain caravans. Like, for instance, there's one there in Erengrad if my caravan actually makes it there, which it may not. You never know. But that is... that Tiger Court system gives you a bunch of benefits for Tiger Warriors. So, you know, physical resistance, different benefits for structures, and you also have oaths, which once you get a specific path, so you have 3 paths, each relic gives you 1 point, so you basically need 15 relics to unlock everything. I'm not sure how many there are on the campaign map. Realistically, you're not going to get everything, but at tier 3 with any of the paths, you get a benefit for all armies. So you can get immune to diplomatic penalties, replenishment foreign territory. You can get, you know, you can strip armies of spell resistance. So you have certain army abilities you can unlock, like reducing campaign movement range, removing spell resistance, silencing enemies, increasing battle healing cap. You don't have to deal with the compass. So maybe the Bhashiva, that's the big reason why Bhashiva is the best campaign. You can, if we look at things, you can also give stock for all Tiger Warriors, Iron Reinforcements to summon a unit of Iron Claw, campaign ability, or enabling stock stands for all Tiger Warrior Sawai units and replenishing campaign movement range. I think it's a better campaign just because of the dynamics of the starting position, and also Bhashiva is just pretty damn cool in battle. Like, she gets stock stance in her skill line. She gets a bunch of benefits for Tiger Warriors, a bunch of benefits against fighting Chaos, and she's just really damn scary. I'm not sure. She's certainly not a one-man Doomstack Lord, but she might genuinely be one of the best duelists in the game. And I'm not sure why I didn't have the Blades of Shangyang equipped there. That's just weird. But yeah, pretty strong, gets the job done. Do I find it more enjoyable of a campaign than the other ones? Yes. Do I find it one of the best campaigns in the game? Not really. And that's kind of my perspective, really, with regards to the entire Tiger Warriors DLC and the changes they made with Grand Cathay 8.0. It's a better campaign than the other ones. It's better than where it was before. But would I say it's the change that Creative Assembly needed to implement to really make Grand Cathay a really fun race to play? I do not believe so. And that is my perspective. I mean, to be honest, at least having some level of upgrades on individual units is cool. Though it's just kind of, you know, the same thing, though in a lesser extent than the scrap upgrade for greenskin units. Because, yeah, greenskins can get a high level of customization on their units, so it just feels like a lesser version of that in some ways. What you can do. You may have fewer armies, though keep in mind you still have the harmony benefit of minus 25% upkeep benefit for... And I think I'm going to get rid of that structure, actually, because I need the money. You can still get the balanced harmony benefit, so you still have to deal with that aspect. But you do get all the heroes. You do get a good amount of units, though, I think. And long-term, the potential of the campaign is higher just because of climate, though you won't have the most varied armies in your campaign compared to others, right? Yeah, you can't get Jet Lions, but you can get Celestial Lions at the very least. It's a bit weird choice. Like, don't give us Jet and J Lions, but though you can get them, because you can acquire them through various missions that Xiaoming gives you, though these are gonna be pretty damn limited in how they work. Like, I've played multiple campaigns of Bhashiva, and, you know, I've gotten, like, one Jet Lion, Celestial Dragon Crossbows, and all that. And it's not like these get replenished if you lose them by any chance. No, that's not how it works, unfortunately. So yeah, that's my perspective on patch 8.0, the Grand Cathay changes, and the Tiger Warriors DLC. Do I think it's worth it? I mean, if you're interested in playing a Cathay campaign, I'd say it's worth it just for a casualty replenishment hero. I think Bhashiva is the best Cathay campaign, so make of that what you will. Stay tuned for more.